I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, has he gone too dark with the fake tan? No, I think it's quite tasteful. Or maybe you're thinking, is that the new Rogue bench? Has he splashed out? Well, yes, I have. I'm just going to run very quickly through my thoughts today on the new Rocket Air. Had it for a couple of weeks now. Been putting it through its paces, and I bench a lot more regularly than I used to, so I've been able to give my thoughts on it now, and from a place of some sort of experience. So bench is measuring at about, let's say 44 centimetres high, and we're roughly 28 centimetres wide. The bench is a tripod design, so at this end we have 2 wheels, and this end we have a handle, so you can pick it up and roll it around. It's one of the features that I like about this bench is that you can pick it up and roll around by the wheels. So we'll go through some likes and dislikes on areas for improvement today. So likes, first thing, built like a brick shithouse. This thing is a fucking tank. Came packaged really well, 3 separate boxes. So hats off to Rogue and Rogue Australia for looking after me. The one we've supplied in Australia, we only get this new textured pad, which was an option originally when it was originally released in the States. So I can't comment on the original one, but when I first got it, I was a bit worried that it was a bit grimy and a bit slippery. But as I've used it, that's sort of worn in now, so I think it's only going to get better with time. The general assembly of the bench is pretty good. How it's constructed, it's very sturdy. It's got a ladder style system with marks on the front and on the back for what angles you're at. It's got nice branding on the unit. It's got Rogue cutouts out the wazoo, which is certainly much better than the stickers of back in the day. In Australia, we only get offered the matte black design ladder system, whereas in the States they do get the stainless steel option, so we don't get that here. Not a big deal, it's purely for aesthetics, but the mismatch or the juxtaposition of the gloss black versus the matte black looks pretty cool in my opinion. One thing I don't like about the Australian offering is we get the POV spec wheels, which if you buy this spec of the unit in America as well, you do get those. But given that they seem to be a $20 option on the Indy T-Bar row, which again we don't get here yet, it would be nice to see if you could buy those optionally, but just because they look like a little bit nicer wheel. The unit is pretty easy to pick up and move around, as you see, no real issues there. The ladder system works well, it's locked in well, it's very tight. The bench pad itself is plenty long enough to use as a flat bench in of itself. I don't have to have my bum on the seat while flat benching, but I am a cheeky manlet, so no real issues there. Comfort wise, now coming from an Ironmaster bench was a lot squishier. So this is my first experience with a proper bench, having only benched in shitty commercial gyms before this. So yeah, pretty happy with the comfort of the bench. When I first got it, I thought, oh fuck me, I've done goofed here. This thing is like the ground. It was firm, but once you get some weight on there, when you're benching, you start to feel pretty locked in. So that's actually a lot nicer than what I thought. What I don't like, well, the elephant in the room is going to be the cost. It's not a cheap bench. I think roughly $1,300 shipped to me. The idea of the bench unpacking and disassembling like it does, it makes for cheaper shipping, but the difference between this bench and the AB2 in Australia is much of a muchness, but this is obviously a much, I think, subjective of course, but I think it's a much nicer looking bench. While it's expensive, I don't feel that I haven't got value for money. I don't regret the purchase, but is it the first bench I'd recommend you buying? Well, it really depends on your budget, but you know, it's certainly a premium piece with a premium price tag. Now, the main thing that had me swearing and whatnot during the assembly was not necessarily Rogue's fault, but America's fault. SAE sockets and bolts. I don't know if this is going to focus, but I didn't have one of these 732 sockets when I used to be a mechanic, so I have a pretty big toolbox. Didn't have one of these, so I had to go to Bunnings and buy one. Now, bonus, got to go to Bunnings, got to have a snag, got to buy new roll of sockets. I didn't buy just one, I bought the whole row. But the metric system is just far superior. Fractions should only be used for teaching fractions and for working out how much extra food I need. Like I'll have 1.5 apple pies. So America, sort your shit out. Stop measuring things in diabetes and bald eagles, and just get over to some decimal points and abandon this bullshit because it's crap. The assembly as well, because all the bolts are labelled in imperial sizes, I had to bust out the old tape measure and keep asking Siri what the conversions of what were, because I'm trying to measure which bolts go where. In the assembly process, I would have liked to have seen the bags labelled by step 1, step 2, step 3, rather than these bolts are all this length, these bolts are all that length. It would take the same amount of time. One little aesthetic bugbear I have is there's no nylon washers for the bolts down there, so I would have liked to have seen them just so you don't scratch it up, but you're probably not going to be disassembling this over time, so not really going to matter. There is some adjustment required for some of these bolts, and you have to pick where you're happy with it, because they've got bronze bushings and they'll be a little bit tighter at first, but they have loosened up over time, and you can always back them off as you see fit. Room for improvement. So I've already mentioned that I'd like to see the other wheels offered as part of the offering in Australia, or as an optional extra, or maybe if I buy some more shit from the States, I'll just buy the wheels off the Indy T-Bar row and get me some of those. But the other thing I'd like to see, and I know other brands do this, I believe GetRx do in the States, is like a box section on the back under the spine here where you can fit accessories. So, and by accessories, I really only care about having decline rollers, so you can do some decline bench. For me, this would be plenty long enough to do decline bench on, and ab sit-ups and that kind of thing. And I think there's plenty of room in the frame, as you'll see now, that a box section could be welded in there, and I may even do something like that going forward in the future. And the very last thing is I'd like the option of a fat pad. So the gap here is pretty narrow when the bench is folded up, so you may have to sacrifice some of that narrowness if you had a fat pad on there, but I don't see why that couldn't be offered down the track. And if you keep an eye out on Bill Henniger's Instagram, the owner of Rogue, he's been teasing the new Manta bench, I believe it is, in between posting big green eggs and stacking rocks and copious amounts of meat. Been teasing the Manta bench that I believe is going to have something like that. So maybe that's something they're saving for that bench. I'm not sure. I think things got plenty of stability. But I really like this so far. This is probably going to be a forever bench now. Well, I have said that many a time. I'm sure when this Manta bench comes out, I'll have buyer's remorse and wish I bought that instead. But solid bench. It's premium, ergo expensive. But look, if you're looking for a forever bench, probably not a bad one at all, but only if you don't do decline movements. If you're only in the incline and the flat, I think that'll be fine. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've got any comments or questions, pop them in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments or wherever I post a video. YouTube's better because that helps with the algorithm, and I'm not hot enough to have people click on me, because you're going to have to work out that I've got a personality because I've got a head like a robber's dog. When I was a kid, Mum had to put sausages around my neck to get the dog to play with me. Fun fact, that's how bad looking I am. And there's probably a fair bit of shine coming off the old dome too at the moment, given that I've positioned myself under a skylight. So thanks for that, guys. Catch you next time. See ya.